Welcome to DappRadar's Off the Blockchain, a Web3, Metaverse, NFT, DeFi, crypto, all of it based podcast brought to you from the brains of me, your host, Charlie, and Ian Kane over in Lithuania. Say hello, Ian.
What's up, guys? Hope everyone's good. Great intro, Charlie. Liked that.
Thank you very much. And we have Robert Hoendorn over in Turkey. Say hello, Robert.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
So we have an international little threesome here for an international audience. So wherever you're listening in the world and whatever time of day it is for you, hello and welcome. Now we have a very exciting show lined up for you today. We'll be talking about the Skuxverse and their new asset-backed security masquerading as an NFT. We'll be launching on-game development studios where we've seen recent movements, acquisitions, and a slight sliver of controversy. And we'll be delving into Meta, their announcement today and what this means for the future of the internet. It won't necessarily be in that order, but we'll see what happens. Now, before we get into any of that, how are you both? Ian, we'll start with you. How's your week been?
Yeah, pretty good week. I've done quite a lot of this kind of stuff this week. I've been doing some AMAs, podcasts, other bits and bobs. Pretty fun. So cool. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Good. And Robert, any news from you? I know you went out for dinner last night. How was that?
Dinner is good. Dinner is always good. No,
what did you eat?
And what did I eat? Yeah, Turkish meat, like meat stuff. Like always good, always meat.
Meat.
Yeah. And not unimportant, like I occasionally play Splinterlands, and Ian has done this AMA with the Splinterlands team recently.
Yeah.
And I finally conquered the bronze level and made it into silver. So that was like, yes, that's like personal victory. And like my card deck like says that statistically I should be able to reach gold. But I kind of suck. So silver is already like
is that
awesome victory.
Splinterlands is the one we just basically play. It's like a trading card game sort of thing.
Yeah, like you start the battle. There's some rules, and based on those rules, you select the cards that you want to use.
Yeah.
There's some limitations to it in terms of mana points and stuff like that. And then the battle plays out automatically. Yeah. So it's like it's not very interactive, but it is tactical thinking. Like you need to look at what your opponent has been using in the past, adjust your tactic based on that, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
No, it is kind of deep, but gameplay wise, it's kind of simple.
Yeah, cool. Right, I'll give you both a few bits of news before we jump into the meaty stuff. So I'll just get your juices flowing with news about the Radar token. Now, this is the native token of our very own DappRadar, and it's up 40% over the past 7 days. So everyone, hooray for that.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
And I got a good news story.
We're going to Mars, man.
Going to Mars. The moon's boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a good news story here from Sunflower Land. Now, that game continues to go from strength to strength following the launch of its beta. We've got loads of stories over on DappRadar about what happened there and the drama they've had since the start of the year. So go over and read those. But at the moment, there's about 70,000 people playing on the open beta. There are 100,000 slots, so there's 30,000 left. Go over there, get signed up, get yourself a little farm. I think you have to pay a small bit of Matic, but yeah, go and do that. And I've also got one more story that I'm going to file under. I don't know what to think about this. Someone just bought a CryptoPunk for 1,050 ETH, which is $3.2 million. Now, I don't know what the person's going to do with that CryptoPunk, but if you're listening, that person, please get in touch with us. We'd love to have you on. Right, now let's jump into some news. Some big stories that we want to talk about. NFT Bros acquiring game dev studios. Robert, you've got some thoughts on this, so I'm going to shoot one over to you and let us know what you think.
Yeah, awesome. So NFT Bros acquiring game dev studios refers to the Animoca brand acquiring Eden Games. Now, Eden Games is not the biggest game studio in the world, but they are the company behind Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, Test Drive Unlimited, and most recently they had a mobile game called F1 Mobile Racing.
Yeah.
Now, this story is interesting from a couple of perspectives. First of all, Animoca Brands ditched Formula One Delta Time. What is it? 2-3 weeks ago?
A couple of weeks
ago.
Yeah.
And now they doubling down on racing games. So it's safe to say that the Rev ecosystem will get another boost. But what's even more interesting here is that, like we said, we call it NFT bros. But what's funny, and because that's how the outside world looks at us, but it's crypto people buying actual game studios to develop games. And one thing that the crypto space or the blockchain space has been lacking is experience. Experience in making proper games. Like the earliest blockchain games were card games because they are relatively easy to make. They
stuff like solitaire or poker.
Yeah, they don't require lots of interactivity. It's gameplay wise, it can be deep, it can be tactical, but the actual interactive element is fairly simple. So seeing Animoca brands buying Eden games is super interesting, and it's something we've been seeing over the past years. Like Gala Games attracted Peter Molyneux and his 22 Can studio. If you don't know who Peter Molyneux is, he is the guy that made the Fable series on the Xbox.
So you said that Gala Games bought his studio?
No, they made a deal with him.
So there's a partnership.
Yeah, 22 Cans is working on a game for Gala Games.
Yeah.
Will Wright, the brain behind The Sims and SimCity, is working on a game for Gala Games. And at the same time, companies like Sega Japan recently emphasized that they see NFTs as the future of gaming. So this just shows that the gaming industry is moving towards NFTs, and the NFT industry is acquiring game dev studios to make those games. It's really a two-way flow of knowledge and
expertise,
and expertise moving into this industry. So I think that's super exciting. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this makes sense, that Eden Games being acquired by Animoca? Or
it looks like Gala's being super aggressive as well right now, right? Like, out of all of the companies out there, they're being really aggressive in acquiring knowledge. Like, why rebuild the wheel if it's already working? And I think they're doing that in a really smart way. And it's a similar thing that we saw from like Google maybe a decade ago, where they went around acquiring the knowledge bases that they needed to get themselves into a better position. So from that regard, from a business sense, it makes perfect sense here what they're doing, and having Molyneux and Wright involved as well is probably a big pull for traditional gaming companies to work with them. So that kind of makes sense to me. The only question mark, I guess, sits over, is it a good thing for the industry overall, having these kind of big gaming studios from an old school world transitioning over? Are they going to bring their old school ethics with them, or are they going to get involved with Web3, I guess? What do you reckon?
The thing is, though, what are their old school ethics? I mean, if they're just game designers, then people like Gala Games can tack on the blockchain technology stuff. But I guess, what do you mean by the old school ethics?
I think I mean more about the sort of money side of it. If you think about Web3 as an industry, it's very collaborative, where people are working hand in hand because we're still quite young. Whereas in gaming, it's become quite monopolistic, where there are companies out there who dominate the landscape, like Sega did and Nintendo did for a period of time, and now it's Microsoft and Sony. I think this monopolistic view on it and how to squeeze the customer for money, we don't want to see that come over into our side of things, because that's really where we're trying to avoid it. So I guess it's kind of like the old guard learning from the new guard, but the new guard also need to take lessons from the old school.
I mean, if we want good quality games, then I think going to people who can make them is definitely a good step. And we can already kind of see a centralization of power in blockchain gaming with stuff like Animoca brands, Gala Games. They're two of the huge names that are either starting new franchises or buying up the ones that they think are the good ones. So it's kind of already happening a bit in our space already, even though it's very, very new.
It's interesting about like the anti-NFT side of it as well. Like we've seen with who was it? Ubisoft, right? Ghost Recon NFTs that they were going to drop, and they got this horrible kickback almost instantly that led them to take down the video and perform a U-turn, basically. So
Ubisoft didn't make a U-turn. Ubisoft actually released NFTs on the Tezos blockchain, Team 17. That's the company behind Worms.
That's-
Those are the ones that made a U-turn within 24 hours.
That was it. That was
GSC. What's it called? GSC. I'm now going to say Game Worlds. I'm not quite sure, but the company behind a gaming franchise called Stalker. They also announced a playable NFT. Also made a U-turn within 24 hours.
strange.
Like the thing I'm afraid of. I also follow lots of game developers on Twitter, and many of them are negative about gaming. And what I'm not going to say it will happen, but like I see Animoca brands buying Eden games, and then I think like, okay, if there are some game devs in the studio that are super anti NFT for whatever reason, educated or uneducated, then they probably just turn their backs on the studio and maybe leave the studio as just an empty frame. It will just be a name.
Yeah, the studio's no longer got the people in there that made it the studio it was.
Yeah, so that's the thing I would be afraid of with these types of acquisitions. And yeah, how can we prevent that? Like for education, of course, but like there's so many misconceptions among gamers, but also among game developers.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
There's also the kind of thing that we call them less defined, like blockchain games. As we say, many of them are really simplistic. Like we said at the beginning, they got really simple mechanics. Maybe it's Othello or chess, or it's established as a game and it's nothing too complicated.
Yeah, there are very, very defined rules in it.
Yeah, they're kind of static. And like gamers, if we say gamers, they expect high quality graphics, they expect decent games. So perhaps it's all just a bit fast, and that we're trying to appeal to this audience known as gamers, but they're looking at these games and thinking, well, these are not really games, and I'm not that interested in making money out of anything like this. So it's not quite piqued their interest as yet. When something proper comes along, I think perhaps it will change.
Yeah, I think if you've played Call of Duty, I don't think that Axie Infinity at the moment is really going to cut it for you, is it?
Yeah, because if you want to make money, you're going to do that in a different way, potentially, rather than playing games. You play games to play games. You make money to make money.
You stream to make money.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's other avenues, isn't there? So, yeah, that's a good point. And
But I think
games.
one of the reasons that maybe some people do think that NFTs have a bit of a bad name is for stuff like the Pixelmon project. Have you two heard about that?
Yeah,
I'm not seeing it. Show me.
Well, I'm just going to bring up the picture of this guy called Kevin.
Steve! Oh no, not Steve.
It's
Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah.
His name he's been named by the internet. His name is Kevin, and he was the attempt by the Pixelmon project. It was their attempt at the artwork. So that was unveiled to people who had spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on their NFTs, and when that was unveiled, people first cried, then they grew angry. It was like the stages of grief. They eventually accepted it in the end, but now that Kevin is now going to quite an expensive NFT because he's such a iconic joke. So that was quite a funny piece.
That was a case of like, now he's saying that he's going to work with a game dev, right? And he's going to actually produce a game of some magnitude.
Like that studio lead, let's call him studio lead, nickname is Cyberer, real name is known, I forgot. But he posted on March 3rd, that's the last tweet he posted. Right. He said, "Oh, we're talking to a major studio, stay tuned, more news soon."
Studio.
It's been 1.5 months already.
Yeah.
Like, true being told, like, if you're a game studio and hey, this guy is sitting on $70 million. I mean, $70 million is probably quite a lot of money to make a good game.
Yeah.
So really, like it is like a budget you can make a AAA game with. So from that point of view, I'm not going to say that he's going to work with the studio behind Call of Duty, but I can imagine that maybe some open-minded game devs out there are like, okay, this guy has money, he needs help, we can help him.
Yeah, so
and like the lack of communication from Pixelmon, both on the Pixelmon Twitter as on the Twitter of Cyberer, doesn't give me lots of hope that it's actually happening. But like potentially, why not? I'd say. But,
yeah, I mean, watch this space. I wouldn't personally hold out huge amounts of hope, but we'll see what happens. Now, talking about big companies getting involved in the metaverse space and the world of blockchain, we had a story that came out this week about the artist formerly known as Facebook, Meta, talking about the fees they're going to charge people to sell their NFTs. Now, Ian, I know you've got some thoughts on this, so I'm going to hand over to you and we'll have a little chat about what we think about it.
By golly, do I have some thoughts on this. So, let's start from the top. So as we know, Facebook rebranded to Meta last year at the hype sort of period around metaverse and virtual worlds and gaming.
They created the hype.
They created that hype, actually.
They did
create that hype, which we were not sad about, but let's dive into what they're actually trying to do for a minute. So yesterday, I think, or the day before yesterday, they made this announcement, 47.5% fee on digital item sales within the Meta platform. Now, they did not say whether these are NFT items, so it's quite important to point that out from the beginning. The word NFT, non-fungible, was not included in the press release. So what they've said is up to a 47.5% fee. That includes a fee for Meta, and that includes a fee for the blockchain platform, which I cannot remember the name of now. But anyway, it's 47.5. So nearly 50% will go back in the pockets of Facebook. So if you sell an item for $1, you will get, what is that, $52 and back for that. So it's a really big fee. And what we did was compare it to other fees. So one thing that Mark Zuckerberg came out and said a while ago, that he wanted to help creators avoid this 30% Apple App Store fee. If you sell in-game items or in-app items in the App Store, it's 30%, right? So he said that I want to help people avoid that. And now he's come out and said 47.5. So it looks like a bit of a backtrack here. But when we compare it to other platform fees, so if we do a direct comparison with NFT marketplaces, for example, so if we look at some of the top ones, now bear in mind we've got gas fees here with Ethereum-based marketplaces. But the fee on top for OpenSea, 2.5%. So if you sell something, you got to give 2.5 up to OpenSea. Rarible, the same amount. Solar art is 3%. And then we get into like those more artistic marketplaces where they're selling art pieces. The fees jump a little bit, 15% there. But that kind of makes sense, seems, as people are not trying to sell 10,000 of something. They're trying to sell a limited, quite a small amount of something. So anyway, the difference is vast. We got 2% up to 47.5%. So
may I just explain about the art locations and marketplaces, like Super Rare, Nifty Gateway, those type of places. They nowadays, almost all of them have a kickback fee to the original creator. So yes, there's a, even on secondary sale, the original creator of the NFT gets a small percentage. So that's important to note. It doesn't always go 100% to the platform. There's a split there.
Some of it's baked in for them, and I actually quite agree with that a creator should get to enjoy benefits ongoing, despite the fact.
But that defeats the whole purpose of if you own an NFT, because you don't own all of it. You own 100% minus the percent that the creator gets for the sell-on fee. I mean, you own the use of it, but you're kind of renting it to an extent, because you owe them something at the end. Anyway,
no, it's a good point.
You only owe something the moment you sell.
Yeah, you do. So as I say, you own the full usership of it, but you don't own the sell-on value. I mean, imagine if the builder who built your house, every time your house was sold, they got 5%.
Yeah, but you only sell your house once.
No, but then the next person who sells it,
he also sells only once.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure everyone's got their own opinion on if that's fair or not.
Okay, that's probably another discussion. Let's go back to Meta.
Yeah, the bigger picture here really is kind of how does what Meta's trying to do look to the Web3 community. And if you just head over to Twitter, then you'll see how they feel about it.
Yeah.
I wrote an article and put a tweet in there with some interesting language, let's say. But yeah, people are like, this is a joke, like 47.5. Are you crazy? It doesn't fit with the narrative of what's going on in Web3 right now. But, sorry, I have my own theory personally. And it revolves around the idea that this is just good old-fashioned PR. And that by Meta making an announcement over 47.5, they've definitely got on the front page of the news for whichever reason, whether it be because it's high or because it's just an interesting piece of news about Meta. There's nothing to stop them from U-turning on these fees, and there's nothing to say this isn't just a fact-finding mission by Meta. Let's see how people react. Let's gauge it. So that's one theory that could run true. It happens quite often.
Ian, that's very cynical of you, by the way.
Of course.
To think that Meta wouldn't tell the truth.
Well, let's be real. Let's talk about Meta as a company. I think Meta lost a lot of clout over the last few years, obviously, with the Cambridge Analytica issues. And just generally,
I think that story about Instagram and the effect it has on people and their mental health, and then they're covering up and they're trying to silence the whistleblower sort of thing, all of that wasn't a great look for the company, and they are losing. And then Apple changed their rules so they couldn't track people around the internet, so they're not in the ascendancy like they were.
No, I keep calling them MySpace, like people keep telling me off, but I keep calling it MySpace, and I think one day Zuck's going to wake up and be irrelevant, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, I don't know about that.
For us, it's the way to see it. But yeah, like you guys disagree. I'm not talking about next week, by the way. I'm talking.
No, but it's Facebook. Like, I mean, Facebook. Right now it's dropping. It's been dropping for years. Like I think like they have WhatsApp as well.
Yeah.
They have Instagram. They have Oculus. Like they have different projects. So saying that Meta will lose its relevance, I'm not quite sure. But like I honestly think, like, knowing that Meta has Oculus, the VR headset, then this virtual world concept is probably a very big play for them.
Yeah.
And knowing that, and also knowing that Facebook has been trying to launch their own crypto stablecoin, so I think this is a really big play. And I kind of agree with you, Ian, that the 47.5% fee is probably a joke, or maybe they would be like, oh, if nobody says anything, we will just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's great testing, right?
Yeah. If we get no kickback on Twitter, we'll go ahead.
If everybody's cheering, then we just do it.
Yeah.
At the end of it, it's access to markets, right? Like Facebook, Meta will provide access to customers, and
they've got the resources behind them. They're already like they've got billions in the bank that they can just throw at stuff.
Exactly. So no matter how much of a no-brainer something seems, like people always talk about the music industry, why artists aren't just all releasing their music as NFTs. It's not such an easy transition when a few companies hold user acquisition power and you as an artist don't have it. So people will gravitate there for sure. People will, if anything, this is a positive thing because it will introduce people to the idea of ownership, trading inside a platform they already understand. Whether they then evolve into what we want.
Ian, do you think that Facebook's, or Meta's, I should say, their entry into the metaverse Web3 space, do you think that's going to lead to mass adoption? And actually, I'll add on to that. What do you think mass adoption in this space means?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it? So if Facebook is going to drive mass adoption, they are one of the companies that could potentially do this. They've got as we say, we've got the user base, they've got the pull, and they've got the resources to make it happen. But mass adoption in their world is millions and millions and millions of active users every single day, right? And that's a benchmark that we've not got to yet in the world of dApps. So I think it's quite interesting to speak about mass adoption overall because we hear a lot about this. We're headed there. We're going to mass adoption. And I would question it slightly, not in a negative way, just to be realistic. For example, you've got how many dApps on DappRadar? Let's have a look just quickly. I think there are 5 So if we filter dApps on DappRadar and say what's the minimum amount of users they've had in the last 30 days, sorry, there are 5 dApps that have achieved more than 500,000 active users in 30 days. 5. And we track 4,000 dApps.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So, and out of these dApps, you've got quite a good it shows quite a lot by looking at this. You've got PancakeSwap at the top of the pile, which is a DEX, but also has an NFT part to it.
And just quickly, Ian, for anyone who doesn't know what a DEX is.
Decentralized exchange. So an exchange where using complicated words, where you can swap tokens.
Yeah.
In a
But
decentralized.
there's no middleman. There's no centralized.
No middleman. Liquidity provided by customers, P2P trading, basically.
Yeah.
So it's quite odd to see them at the top of the pile because traditionally a DEX doesn't drive millions of users, but the way that their DEX works is quite unique and is giving them that edge.
They've also got really good yield farming as well. I see. Yeah.
Moving in and out of positions, all these other things. There's many reasons to go there. So then second on the list is Atomic Assets, which is a Wax-based marketplace. So we've got a DEX, an NFT marketplace on Wax, which says a lot about Wax and what's going on there. Lots of gaming activity, lots of in-game NFTs, lots of lower value trading. Third, Alien Worlds, a game on Wax. Fourth is
Wax is a
blockchain.
Blockchain.
For anyone who doesn't know, Wax is a blockchain.
Yeah, sorry, Wax is a blockchain. And it's very specific in what they do. They're not really like all dApps. They're quite specific on NFTs, collectibles, and gaming. And then fourth, we've got NearDApp called Prime Lab, which we've spoken about on DappRadar. It's a bit of an anomaly, but the fundamental difference is it tracks everything on chain. So it's the reason why you see such large numbers here. And then Splinterlands. So we've got 2 games, an all-in-one dApp, an NFT marketplace, and a DEX. So it shows a good representation of what's hot on blockchain right now and also which networks are really doing their job. So mass adoption, that's 500,000 users, over 500,000 in a month. PancakeSwap's had nearly 3 million. Atomic Assets, nearly 1 million.
But if you add them all up, how many is it?
Because
they're all decentralized, aren't they? So the adoption is decentralized by its very nature. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's not 1 billion people. It's not 1 in every 10 people in the world like Facebook. It's
exactly.
It's far fewer than that.
Picture changes again if you filter by 100,000 maximum. So this is 100,000 people over 7 days. You've got 10 dApps.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of games, NFT marketplaces. So that's kind of what mass adoption looks like in our industry. They're the kind of numbers that we're talking about. So what do you guys think about this mass? I mean, mass adoption is such a generic term. Like, how do you feel about it?
No, yeah, like I think that the whole Facebook thing, like mass adoption for Facebook is not in the billions. What's interesting is, Facebook has been losing the younger generation for multiple years. Like Facebook, ask anybody, from Gen Z. So let's say the modern teenagers, they definitely don't even use Facebook. So, and who's going to move into the metaverse? So what is the generation that needs to use the metaverse and needs to get accustomed to digital ownership? That's the young kids. Anybody above 50 is not the target.
Pretty much.
Probably even above 40, but no. I want to count myself in.
you hear about kids, teenagers trading Bitcoin and ETH and all the different cryptocurrencies. So maybe that could be their gateway into the wider world of Web3.
Yeah, maybe it's not Facebook. Maybe it's Shiba Inu.
Maybe it's Insta. Like imagine the possibility. Yeah. Instagram posts.
Guys, we're not mentioning TikTok here. I think that's what the kids these days use, isn't it?
We wouldn't know, Charlie.
No.
No, you're right. You're right. You are right. And video content there as well. But imagine the idea, the underlying principle here is that there are content generators out there. They're creating good content and they're not being rewarded for that. They're giving it up and they're giving it to the centralized platforms like whether it be Facebook, Insta, TikTok, Meta. Just because you got 10 million views, it doesn't really translate into much, does it?
But I don't know, there might be some YouTubers who disagree with that. I know they.
Yeah, but that's
just so you know, like 1 million views on YouTube earns you roughly $1,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, people who get millions and millions and millions of views, yeah, they make good money, of course.
You Joe Rogans.
But like,
Oh, that's sold.
if you make a solid guide on how to do something in a game and you get 1,000 views, and it takes you 10 hours to make it, and you get like $1.
You're not getting much money per hour, are you? There.
No. So and that's where Web3 comes in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so like in Web 2, you see things like tipping, you know, like this, adding that extra revenue stream to advertisement.
But you can do that on YouTube, can't you? I think you can do it on Twitter as well, maybe.
Yeah.
You can do it on a few sites.
Tipping is, but that's basically a, yeah.
like
I'm not going to say yeah, but it's a an addition, because like this traditional advertisement Web 2 revenue model only benefits the ones that are really, really successful.
Yeah.
Anybody small will never ever make enough money to make a living through that model.
But hasn't entertainment always been the same? Like, if you were a rock star in the 70s, about 10 made it to the top, and everyone else was scrounging around in pubs, playing on the circuit and barely scraping a living, even if they didn't have a full-time job on the side. That's maybe we want to create a new world where people get paid fairly for stuff they do, and that's maybe what Web3 and blockchain can do.
Yeah, imagine a world where your Instagram posts were yours, and every time you did a picture that was a cool picture, it actually then became a property you own, and you can sell as an image.
And you got the advertising revenue for it.
Exactly, like YouTube streamers get cash, but they sell their soul in order to get it, right? They clickbait the hell out of everything. They I'm sure they're not that proud of what they do to get those clicks, but it's their job, right? So I think I consider them quite different, to be honest, in that sense, that's like advertising revenue, and you can do that in Web 2, whereas in Web 3 it'll be different. It's not about selling a piece of your soul to make some money. It's about selling the product of your soul,
your creation. Yeah
the other way.
So back to mass adoption. What do you think is mass adoption? Like to me like 100,000 is close. I'd say a million users for Dapp. I would consider it somewhat mainstream.
Yeah, that's mass adoption, and I think in our world, because obviously the three of us, we do this all day, every day, so we see it all the time, and we think the biggest things at the moment that we see have sort of 1 million people using it.
Yeah.
In reality, in the wider world, I always go by the benchmark of, if my mum's doing it, then it must be mass adoption.
Yeah.
And she's a long way off.
Yeah.
Using pancake swap at the moment. I think it's different levels depending on who you are.
But your mom is still on Facebook.
Yeah, I think so. I think she has. I think she has.
My parents as well. Like I literally.
So that's mass adoption, isn't it?
I sometimes upload something to Facebook just because I know that they will see it and they can like my photo of my daughter or something like that.
Yeah. But again, think about demographics of users with deep pockets. Is it 18-year-olds? No. Is it 35?
But they will be in 5 years.
Yes. Yeah, you've got to capture that right, Charlie, that's exactly right. You've got to capture that audience that are coming into having disposable income early, nurture them right up to the point where they have disposable income, and then extract it, which is
it's why like chocolate companies market to kids.
Yeah.
Get them on the sugar at the age of 6, then you'll have them for life. All right, we're going to move on to another part of the metaverse, and we're going to look at worlds within worlds. This is so we're quite heavy on the NFT virtual worlds here, but we're going to look at how people are using established virtual worlds to build their own world within that and create their own content within that. And specifically, we're going to look at a new project called, I don't know if it's new, but certainly I've come across it recently, as a thing called Skuxverse, and that's spelt SKUXXVERSE. It's a Skuxverse, and what they're doing is they're buying up loads of NFT worlds lands, so land in the NFT worlds game or project, and then they're earning yield from, I think, play to earn yield, which they're going to do in the future, and they're also renting it out and also staking it, and they're earning the WRLD token, the world token. And then if you have one of the Skuxworld's NFTs, you are eligible for an airdrop of world tokens every month. So what it is, what I've compared it to, is a asset-backed security based on a fairly unstable assets. Now, you think I'm being slightly harsh, Robert, don't you, on Skuxverse and how it works? But I personally think it sounds like a risky financial instrument, not too dissimilar to what happened in 2008. But at the same time, there are no regulations here, so people can do what they want. So what do you think, Robert? I know that you've got your own thoughts on this.
Like, aside from Skuxverse, like in general, I think that we're talking about the project here. And so let's first talk about NFT worlds. NFT worlds, you have different NFTs. Each NFT represents a piece of land.
Yeah.
In that piece of land, basically a Minecraft world. In that piece of land, you can build something. Where the play to earn element comes into play is that you can build a game. So you can build a shooter or a adventure game. And as people play, there will be a revenue in world tokens. Now, what Skuxverse does is buying lots of land, building games on it. As people play, all those worlds generate tokens, and those tokens go to the NFT, to the Skuxverse, awful name.
It is an awful name, isn't it? It's so difficult to say. I wonder if it's pronounced differently to how we're saying it, like Skuxverse or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the XX is silent almost, like it. I don't know.
Skuxverse.
Skuxverse. Yeah. So then you will get some income. I understand that you say it sounds weird, but look at it from a Web3 perspective. So you have everything is stored on smart contracts, right? So everything, there's no, they can't.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying they're dodgy. I'm saying the idea is slightly.
Yeah, maybe it's a very Web3 way of thinking. Like as an investor in a traditional company, you buy stocks, right?
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
And at some point, you sell the stocks, and you hope to have a profit. But in traditional businesses, you don't get a share of the revenue.
Well, you do if there's dividends.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. But that's a little bit like this. Like you buy, the business is building games in NFT worlds. You buy stocks, in this case, Skuxverse NFTs, and you get dividends.
Yeah.
And it's not, in this case, it's not regulated. There's no legal stuff involved here. And I'm not saying that will not that this is lawfully wrong. Like this, like that's something for somebody else to discuss. But I don't see this as something that's wrong by pure definition.
No, I don't think it. No.
But it's an interesting way to start a business, right? I mean, you have some knowledgeable people, some game makers that perhaps maybe have experience and they can prove that experience. And you propose something, you sell your NFTs, and then you have the money and you start building. And of course, like it all like comes down to promises and. Yeah, we've seen plenty of rock pools. So
yeah,
but like, I honestly I like this concept, like purely as a concept. Like having a community come together, invest in a group of people, and everybody reaping rewards from that.
Ian, what do you reckon?
If it pans out well.
I definitely see both your points, Charlie. I see yours. It's backing it with something as untried and tested as a project that came out a year ago. It seems worrying, but more so than that, when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking Skuxverse or whatever it's called is capitalizing on FOMO, and that they are placing them, as Rob said, an interesting business model. They are being a middleman fundamentally.
They are, yeah. You can like buy a fraction basically of an NFT world.
Yeah, and it's
and
like
get all the rewards for it, and you don't really. All you have to do is buy an NFT. So it's kind of like they are the middleman. They take away a lot of the issues for you.
they take off the issues, but I think the bigger point for me is that they're capitalizing on FOMO, and they are targeting smaller investors here that don't have deep pockets to jump into projects, who maybe want exposure, which is cool, which is fine. But if we see this as a trend emerging where an NFT project becomes hot over 6 months, and then all of a sudden somebody adds another layer to it to create this mechanic where people can hop in and invest, I think it's quite dangerous overall, to be honest. Like, I like the idea, I get it, but I think it's a little bit dangerous to be jumping on things that are so new. It's like, yeah, it's kind of akin to the, like you said, Charlie, 2008 financial crash, where you've got baskets of so-called AAA stamped.
Yeah, on something else, on something else, on something else.
A big
Inception finance.
Yeah, a big basket of rubbish might look good, but it's still a big basket of rubbish.
Yeah.
And NFT Worlds is not proven, in my opinion, yet to be hedging value onto it using another form. So I'd say it's.
I'll be interested. We'll revisit it. I'm sure in a few months' time we'll be like, what's happened there? Has it turned out well? How are they going?
There's something interesting about NFTs, by the way. Like late last year, there were various.
Is this the Skuxverse NFTs?
No, but there were various PFP projects that were like derivatives from existing bigger projects, and what they did. And I'm not sure if they still exist, but what they did is they said, okay, we are, let's call it the hobo punks, and the hobo punks will, the money we generate, we will use to acquire one crypto punk for the treasury.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And I have no idea, like I know they existed. I know also it happened with the Cool Cats, for example. There was some project that they used to buy to get Cool Cats. If they still exist, I don't know. But again, that's also the same thing. Like the original product is too expensive. Create a layer and use smaller investors to buy as a group. Buy the
bigger one, yeah.
Bigger one.
All right, I'm going to move us on there. I'm going to go from one NFT world to our own world of DappRadar, and we want to give a few bits of news about what's coming up. So I'll move on to who wants to take the first thing about the votes. Rob, do you want to talk to that?
Sure. So last Wednesday, the vote ended, and the vote meant that people holding Radar tokens could use their tokens to vote on a proposal. And the proposal was about expanding the Radar ecosystem, so the Radar token ecosystem, from Ethereum to two other chains, in this case BNB chain and Polygon. Super cool. We had 479 votes, which is incredible amount. I mean, that means that there are 479 people actually voting using their Radar tokens, etc. And we had a total amount of 47 million Radar tokens used in that vote. So cool statistics, and the vote passed. So that's really great stuff.
Yeah. And then on top of that, we've got Sushi, extension of the Sushi liquidity pool. So there's a liquidity pool on SushiSwap for Radar and ETH, and we've extended that for a further 3 months. It's already been running for 6 months, right? It's been running already. No, 3 months it's already been. So yeah, we've extended that. And these aims are just to add more liquidity to the pool, and also to just incentivize trading a little bit as well of Radar, and create less slippage over there when people want to trade in and out as well. So, and then on top of that, we've got single token staking, which will actually
That's the big one. That's the big one.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, this is the biggie, like single token staking of Radar on DappRadar. So there is
on multiple blockchains.
Yeah. So yeah, which is awesome, and will provide us with the much needed liquidity again that we require, but also give people that hold Radar the opportunity to just simply stake Radar, which is a great opportunity. So there's more information coming about that as we just kind of finalize the details. But yeah, some interesting stuff happening around Radar. As we said at the beginning, we had a recent pump based on Coinbase's potential listing. things are heading in the right direction. So yeah, keep it tuned, and just to find out more about what's going on with Radar. And then we have one last thing, which I'll let Rob talk about because it's really cool.
Let me talk about it.
The fun piece of news.
This is the biggest news, yeah, because I mean, we all love Easter. We all love eating those chocolate eggs.
We do,
and we all love searching those eggs. So that's actually the best part. Like if you're over 40, like eating the chocolate eggs makes you fat, but finding them, that makes you fit. So and we're going to do an Easter egg hunt on DappRadar. Very cool. Like, so you log into the website, make an account, or use your existing account, and start clicking eggs. There's a leaderboard to see who found the most eggs. See if you reach the top, and if you reach the top of the charts, then you will win prizes. So we have like 10 times DappRadar Pro membership that people can win, and we have 10 times a Pancake Bunny NFT. So pretty cool stuff.
So like prizes to be won, everyone.
Yeah, prizes to be won with some solid value to it as well.
Yeah.
And above all, like it's a fun way, an interactive way to perhaps learn more about DappRadar. You will discover pages you've never visited before just because you're searching for those eggs. So go to DappRadar. Starting from Friday until the 25th of April.
Excellent. Right, so I think we'll leave it there for this week. It's goodbye from the Off the Blockchain team. Goodbye from Ian.
Goodbye, everybody.
And a goodbye from Robert.
And goodbye from Robert. And it's good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from me to wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.